Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Let's jump right in. Of course, these classes are available for sponsorship. If you to sponsor a class, it's very helpful, helps us continue doing these classes. We really appreciate it. Let's jump right in. So, this week we are celebrating, if you will, is commemorating or living through, I'm trying to find the right words. We are in the middle of starting the month of Adar, the Hebrew month of Adar. And of course, the month of Adar is connected to the holiday of Purim, as we shall talk in 1 second. Purim, by the way, is in not next Tuesday, but the week after that, March 3rd. If you're in Duluth and you'd like to join us at Purim, please RSVP on our website. Really appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we started this week, the month of Adar. Tonight is the third day of Adar. Today was the second day of Adar. So let's talk a little bit about the month. Talmud and Tainus, the tractate Tainus, page 29, says as follows. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilas, said in the name of Rav, Mishnichnas Adar, when Adar comes, Marbim B'Simcha, we add in joy. So already from the beginning of the month, we start adding in joy. Now, the peak of the joy, obviously, is the holiday of Purim. And on Purim specifically, there's a law, there's a halacha that a person is supposed to get inebriated until he doesn't know the difference between Haman and the cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. But already from the beginning of the month, we start adding in joy. There's an interesting, funny story that there was once a drunk who enjoyed drinking, and he was always looking for an excuse to have a good drink. So he once people saw him, he was drinking on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first day of the month of Adar. And he said, they said to him, Mister, why are you drinking? He said, what do you mean? It's Adar. They said, but don't you know, it's on Purim that we drink, not just the whole month of Adar. He said, listen, Haman wanted to kill the Jews during the month of Adar. The Megillah tells us that he made a lottery, and he picked the month of Adar. So why did he not right away kill the Jewish people starting on the beginning of the month? Why did he wait until he wanted to wait until the 13th day of the month? So he said, listen, Haman had an idea. He said, what if my plan fails? My plan fails, and now I have to, the Jewish people are going to make it into a holiday. I don't want them to have a month-long holiday. I only want them to have a day-long holiday. So therefore, he made sure that his plan was for one day, just in case it would become a holiday. But you want to go listen to Haman? I'm going to start drinking now. I don't hold of Haman. I want to drink for a whole month. Like, not like he planned that we would only drink for a day. Okay, it's a joke, but there is some truth to this, that in the Jewish law, in fact, we see there are things about the entire month that there are things that apply to the entire month of Adar. We obviously mentioned already increasing in joy starts in the beginning of the month of Adar. There's a law that that you're not supposed to get married at the end of the month. That a person is only supposed to get married during the first half of the month, and there are 3 exceptions. In the Code of Jewish Law, the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isolis, he wrote as follows, that the second half of the month of Adar is one of the exceptions, that you're allowed to get married in the second half of Adar, because when the moon is growing, it's a good time. It's a good sign, but when the moon is getting smaller, it's a bad sign. So the first half of the month, if you know how Jewish months work, the Jewish month is based on the birth of the new moon. So on the last day of the month, the moon is covered. It's not visible. On the first day of the month, it's visible. On the 15th day of the month, it's full. And then, again, starts to get smaller. So the first half of the month is okay to get married. But the second half of the month, again, that's not how we practice today. But there is a opinion that one should not get married during the second half of the month. Doesn't apply to others. So we see there is an idea that this affects Jewish law. Another place we see it affects in Jewish law is reading the Megillah. That even though we're supposed to read the Megillah on the day of Purim, the law is that a person could read Megillah the entire month. In the Jerusalem Talmud, Megillah 1:1, he says as follows: the entire month is fit for the reading of Megillah. Why? Because the Megillah itself states the month was transformed for them from sorrow to joy. And in fact, in the Code of Jewish Law, he actually says that if a person is allowed to read on earlier different days, he goes through. If a person is going to be not in a place where he's not able to hear the Megillah on Purim, the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, discusses what days a person is allowed to read the Megillah in order to make sure he hears the Megillah during the month of Adar. So we see that actually the entire month has been transformed, as it says in the Megillah itself. So there is an idea the entire month has been transformed. Another place in Jewish law that we see this idea. In the tractate Tainus, and we mentioned earlier, page 29, Rav Papa says, a Jew who has a court case with a non-Jew should avoid scheduling it in the month of Av because it is bad luck, and endeavor to schedule it in Adar because of its good luck. So we see that that a person is supposed to schedule a court case with a non-Jew specifically in the month of Adar. Now, we're going to focus on this law specifically. So we see there are different ways how this month is affected. And the truth is that this idea that, how many of us actually have court cases with a non-Jew that we could actually schedule during the month of Adar, it's a very rare scenario, obviously. However, the fact that this is taught as a law that applies to everybody, and we're talking now about the month of Adar, there must be some relationship that applies to everybody. So there's an idea that the idea of a non-Jew, we're not talking about people, thank God, within the country, the non-Jews are kind to us. We're talking about a person who has evil intentions, has negativity. And really we're talking about the negativity within ourselves. And in fact, there's a Hasidic story about a very interesting, colorful chassid. His name was Rabbi Shmuel. He was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. And the story goes, the first time he met the Alter Rebbe, he saw it was late at night, and everybody's sleeping, so he figured now's the best time to go knock on Rabbi Shneur Zalman's door. He's the only one who's going to be up, studying late, as was his custom. So he knocks on the door, and he says, he asked to be let in, and the Alter Rebbe said no. He said, I'm not leaving. He said, if you don't leave, I'm going to have the guy, the non-Jew, who was his caretaker of the house, throw you out. Basically, let the security guard throw you out. He said, my guy is bigger than your guy. My non-Jew is bigger than your non-Jew. And obviously they were not talking about the security guard anymore. The conversation had shifted to the negativity that lived within himself. And he was saying that he has this issue, that he has a negativity within himself, and it's too big, and he needs the Rabbi Shneur Zalman's help, the Alter Rebbe's help, to remove this negativity from within him. And that is how Rabbi Shmuel became a follower of Rabbi Shneur Zalman, and they had this very tremendous, close relationship. And we have this idea also in other places in Jewish thought that within ourselves we have this non-Jew, this person who doesn't want us to act like a Jew, the person who wants us to, this negative force within ourselves. And we have to win this battle, this internal battle we all have of negativity within ourselves. And what ends up happening is that this negativity manifests, this internal negativity manifests as external negativity. I'll say another story. There was once a famous Hasidic Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Shalom of Zvil, or Shlomka of Zvil, and he was, I believe he lived in Jerusalem, and one time there were some Arabs who were about to attack him. So he screamed, "Shegets, get out of here," which translates as, again, same thing, non-Jew, leave. And now Shegets is Yiddish, it's a Yiddish word. And they all ran away. Obviously the Arabs didn't know Yiddish, but somehow they got the message. So they asked him, how is it possible that these Arabs understood Yiddish, that you were yelling at them to leave, and why did they leave? They were going to attack you, and you say Yiddish words, and they ran away. He said it's very simple. I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to myself. I was talking to the internal struggles that I have. That there's some negativity within me, and when I asked that negativity to leave, and he was successful. Then the external negativity, which comes from your own internal struggle, that manifests in an external fashion, also ran away. So therefore, it is we all have to find this we all have to find within ourselves this negativity, and we have to eradicate it, and that is what's going to bring about the Purim. Purim is a celebration of removing negativity. How do we do that? How do we remove negativity? External negativity that comes from the outside. It's because it comes from our own internal struggles, and we see this. So how do we do this? So how do we actually accomplish this? We already have the answer. The answer is with joy. Mishnichnas Adar, when Adar comes, we have to increase in joy. And in the Tanya, the magnum opus of Rabbi Shimon Zalman B'Yadi, who we mentioned the story earlier, in the Tanya he writes as follows. He gives a sports metaphor. That in sports, specifically he mentions wrestling, that the person who's more motivated, who's more joyous, and therefore is more motivated, can beat a potentially stronger opponent who is depressed. If a person is not motivated, if anybody here watches football, I'm not recommending, I'm just stating facts. If a person watches football, you'll see the one thing they do before the football game is they hype themselves up. They scream and they yell and they say, "We're gonna win, we're the best," whatever they say. Yeah, there's always now with modern technology, they have these mics, they're all mic'd up and you can hear what they say, and they say silly things and it's probably mostly ridiculous and who knows what they're saying, but they have to be excited, they have to be passionate. And that's how, when you have a cohesive unit, specifically football obviously is a team game, but the point is that when you're motivated, you could beat a potentially stronger, less motivated team. So we see here how specifically through the joy of Adar, we could overcome and be victorious in our own internal struggles, and that is what ends up leading in the end to the holiday of Purim, which is where that internal struggle became external, and as soon as the Jewish people fixed their own internal problems, that is when we saw the external victory in the holiday of Purim, where there was a physical Haman, and this physical Haman we got rid of him. And physical Haman, we celebrate the fact that physical Haman is gone. But what does that do with us? We have to get rid of our Haman. We got to get rid of him and throw him out. All the things that we all the motivation that goes the other way, that we want to do things that are inappropriate, or we don't want to, we get lazy or whatever it is. We don't want to be involved in Jewish life. We have to throw all that out, and that is the solution to anti-Semitism. It's not about focus on the external. It's about focusing on ourselves. If we focus on ourselves and we do what we have to do as Jewish people, that is what will get rid of the external problems, the external anti-Semitism, and that will lead us to Purim and eventually lead us to the complete redemption with the coming of Mashiach. Have a great Shabbos, and God willing, we will see you next week.